What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with another episode of the Philly Faithful Podcast, the one-stop shop for news, updates, and opinions on your Philadelphia Phillies. My name is Troy Brock. I am the host. And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, give us that 5-star rating. It helps us out tremendously. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notification icon so you can be notified when more episodes just like this one go live. And today we are going to talk about the situation moving forward for the Philadelphia Phillies and right field. And you can find me on Twitter at Troy B Baseball. You can find the show on Twitter at Philly Faith Pod, Faith spelled just like Philly with a PH. And the position moving forward for the Philadelphia Phillies with right field, Nick Castellanos is there for at least another year. He has 1 year left on the contract that they signed him to, and he really has not lived up to his contract so far throughout his tenure with the Phillies, except in the postseason. He's really turned it on in the postseason, and I was actually wrong. He has 2 more years left on his deal. It was Schwarber who only has 1 year left. Castellanos was a 5-year, $100 million deal. So Castellanos has 2 years left, $20 million each year, and if he wants to hold on to that starting role, he has really got to start producing at the plate consistently throughout the season. And that's been an issue for Nick Castellanos throughout his career, really. And as his tenure in the major leagues has gone on, pitchers have really come around and figured out how to pitch to him because he is a very, very aggressive hitter. As we've talked about on this show before, he swings at the first pitch more than 50% of the time. And he thinks that's funny. He thinks that's a character trait, swinging at the first pitch more than 50% of the time. He makes that his whole personality. And it's really, swinging that much, you're either going to hit the ball and put it in play, or you're going to start an 0-1 hole more than 50% of the time. And that's really not a great way to go about an at bat in general. And he really needs to cut down on that if he wants to be a better and more consistent hitter. And I know that he is one of the fan favorites, especially with what he did really starting in May throughout the rest of the season. He had a decent season. It wasn't great, but it was decent from over that stretch. But it's just he's got to cut down on the first pitch swinging, especially with the Phillies having him under contract for 2 more years if he wants to hold on to that role, that starting role. And he started 162 games this year, one of the handful of guys that did that in Major League Baseball this year. And he has got to stop swinging at the first pitch so often. And it's just it's not conducive to being a good, consistent hitter. And he needs to take more pitches. He was a big reason of the offense sputtering in the postseason, was because he just would not take pitches. And you're not helping the offense when you swing at the first pitch that many times, because if you put it in play, the at bat's over. It's over. If you put it in play and it's a fair ball, the at bat's over. You're either on base or you're out. And the pitcher threw 1 pitch to you. That's not good. You need to work the count, especially against starting pitchers, especially in the postseason, so you could get into that bullpen earlier to help tire out the bullpen for the remainder of the series. It's a long series. It's the postseason. It's the shortest is the wild card, which the Phillies did not have to play in this year. So the shortest this year was the DS, which was 5 games. And so if you get into that bullpen in the 4th or 5th inning in game 1, they've got to throw 4 or 5 innings in game 1. And that's 4 or 5 innings that they have on their arms compared to what they've already done in the regular season, to add more fatigue to them moving forward throughout the rest of the series. And guys have to just across the board, guys have to take better at bats. But Nick Castellanos is a big part of that, swinging at the first pitch more than 50% of the time. He's got to cut down on that. Before he was a Philly, and when the ink was still drying, because the Nick Castellanos and the Kyle Schwarber signing came very, very close to each other. And when they both were announced, I was very skeptical of the Kyle Schwarber signing, and I was on board with the Nick Castellanos signing just because of what he had done throughout his career to that point of signing the contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. And a lot of that was probably recency bias, because what he had done lately was just insane. He was one of the better hitters in baseball, and he has just not been that same guy throughout his tenure with the Phillies. And another thing that I really don't like about Nick Castellanos' game is he came out and said that he locks in more on defense in the postseason than he does in the regular season. And in the regular season, he is one of, if not the worst defender in right field in the sport. And with the Phillies already having one of the not as great defensive teams because of having Trey Turner at short, you can't have another guy just phoning it in right field or in the field, period. And especially in a corner outfield spot, you don't need to have a platinum Glover in right field to make up for it, but you can't have somebody that's not locked in on defense unless it's the postseason. And it has cost the Phillies some runs throughout the years, and it will continue to do so because his mindset is it's honestly his mindset across the board. Fielding in the regular season, swinging at the first pitch, it's not really I want to win ball games. And he might come out and say, "Oh yeah, I want to win ball games." And you might hear me say that and be like, "What ball player doesn't want to win ball games?" And when you look, actions speak louder than words. And when you look at what he does on the field, he's not there to win ball games. He's there to hit the ball and rack up his stats. And that has become more and more evident throughout his tenure with the Phillies. And it's just that's not great for the team as a whole. And he's really not a team player, honestly, when you look at things. And again, actions speak louder than words. He can come out and say, "Oh yeah, I want to win. Oh yeah, it's all about the team all he wants." Prove it on the field. Stop swinging at the first pitch more than 50% of the time. Play Gold Glove caliber defense more than just in the postseason. Like you're capable of doing these things. You just choose not to. So it's just it's crazy. And there are ways that the Phillies can improve in right field. There is a big one that is playing in the World Series starting tonight, and it's pretty obvious who that is, and that's Juan Soto. I mean, defensively, he's probably on the same level as Nick Castellanos, but again, you don't need a platinum Glover in right field. But at the plate, Juan Soto is one of, if not the best all-around hitter in the sport. It is insane how good Juan Soto is. And I am going to be banging this drum until he has officially signed with whoever he officially signs with. But the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't care what Dave Dombrowski says. If he actually meant that, then he is stupid, because the Philadelphia Phillies need to open up the purse strings and do whatever they need to do to get Juan Soto on this roster, because they need more stars, another superstar with Bryce Harper. They can't just have Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler and those be the two superstars. They need more superstars. They have stars. There's no doubt about that. They have stars. They have guys that parade around as stars and might be popular in the league, but they're really not, as Trey Turner. But they need another superstar to add to Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler. Two superstars with the way that baseball as a whole is going, with the Yankees having Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton right now, Juan Soto, Garrett Cole. That's four guys right there. The Dodgers having Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. And there are more that I just did a 50-minute podcast on the National Pod with Christian and Lindsay, our first 3-man pod. So go check that out wherever you get your podcast. But you got to have more than just two superstars, and then you could add the stars. And the Phillies have the stars. They've got Kyle Schwarber. They've got Aaron Nola. They've got Ranger Suarez. They've got Christopher Sanchez. And they just need another superstar. And in the bullpen, Matt Strahm, Jeff Hoffman. Stars are there if they re-sign Jeff Hoffman, of course. But they need more superstars. And Juan Soto needs to be that guy. Again, I don't care what Dave Dombrowski says. If he said that and actually meant it, then he needs to go, because that is just stupid. And that is ignorant. You need to improve this team in any way possible. And if that means paying a lot of money to somebody, then pay a lot of money to somebody, because you need to improve this team. And improving this team would be adding Juan Soto, even if that is starting him in left and keeping Nick Castellanos starting in right field. So be it. Get Juan Soto on the roster. But this is about right field. That tangent was not planned, but it's needed. And Nick Castellanos moving forward, if he wants to be a bigger asset for the Philadelphia Phillies, then as I've said already in this podcast, he needs to stop swinging at the first pitch so often. Start working the count more. It's just absolutely insane. I'm actually going to look up his pitches per plate appearance right now because I am now curious as to that. But you can't swing at the first pitch that often. I don't know. Yeah, for his career, 3.737 pitches per plate appearance. Not bad, but not great. This season, 3.557 pitches per plate appearance. That's pretty bad. 3.5 pitches per plate appearance. You get four plate appearances. Not only are you not working the count and making the pitchers throw more pitches to get into that bullpen or to more tire out a bullpen arm, you're not seeing as many good pitches as you can be seeing. The longer an at bat goes, the more likely a pitcher is to make a mistake. It's just fact. And so the more pitches you take, the better pitches you're going to see to hit. Swinging at the first pitch, you're not going to see a good pitch to hit that often. The only time that you should be swinging at a first pitch is if it is right down the middle, period. That is it. If it's not right down the middle, hold the bat on your shoulders. I don't care. Take that first pitch. You will get more walks. You will get more base hits. You will get more home runs because you will see better pitches to hit in the long run. The more pitches per plate appearance you see. And it's just common sense. And it doesn't make any sense to me how somebody that has played baseball their entire life and gets paid $20 million a year to do so doesn't understand that. And his numbers would be so much better if he just had common sense. And the Phillies as a team would be just a much better team if Nick Castellanos just had common sense. But you know what? He doesn't. And he seems like a cool guy. You know, my wife and I, we saw him play in Detroit. We went to Detroit and went to Comerica Park while he was with the Tigers. This was in 2018, and he was playing right field in that game. We actually saw Corey Kluber pitch in that game because it was the Tigers and the Indians at the then Indians. And I don't remember who was pitching for the Tigers, but it was Corey Kluber on the mound. But one thing that my wife and I really liked, and this is when we we fell in love with Nick Castellanos, the player. And, you know, neither of us really saw him play as often as we do now playing for the Phillies. And he's never played for the Astros, her team. But when in between the ball being in play, he would turn around. And I don't know if he still does this or not because I haven't seen him play in person, but we were sitting in right field for that game. And in between the ball being in play, he would turn around and like the players do to each other where they're like, oh, 1 out, 2 outs. He would turn around to the fans in the crowd. He'd be like, oh, 2 outs, 2 outs. And I don't know. We thought that was cool. We're baseball people. We're baseball nerds. So we thought that was cool. And, you know, we fell in love with him. We thought he was a cool guy. But now that I have seen him play and watched his game, he still seems like a cool person, but he's not that great of a baseball player. And he would be a much better baseball player if he just changed his approach. That's all it would take. All it would take is not swinging the bat at the first pitch more than 50% of the time. And that's not a hard adjustment to make. At this point, like, it's not like you're changing your whole stance, changing the way you swing the bat. It's not a hard adjustment. All it comes down to is, I'm not going to swing here. That's it. You don't have to change anything other than, okay, I won't swing here. And he would be so much better of a player because he is good at with putting the bat on the ball. He is good at that, and he has pop. He has gap-to-gap power, and just he would increase his on-base percentage tremendously, and his batting average would increase, his on-base percentage would increase, his slugging percentage would increase because he'd see more pitches that he could drive to the gap. And it's again, I I don't understand how somebody that is making $20 million a year to play the game of baseball does not understand this. And this is not, you cannot listen to this and then tell me, oh, you don't play the game, you don't know. No, this is another one of those, you've never played the game, so you don't know. I don't have to play the game to know. This is common sense. I could ask my 6-year-old who hasn't played a higher level than T-ball, which is weird to me, and it's in and of itself because I think at 6 I was playing coach pitch, and things have changed since I was 6. That was over 20 years ago, but even he would understand that if you don't swing at the first pitch, you're going to have a much better at bat. And that's all it would take for Nick Castellanos to be that much better of a player. It's just not swinging at the first pitch. But speaking of first pitch, make sure you go check out the first three-man episode of the National Pod First Pitch. Find it anywhere you get your podcast. It's also on YouTube. Go to firstpitchpod.com to find out where you can listen to that podcast. But make sure that's your second listen of the day. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. And thank you for joining us today on the Philly Faithful Podcast. My name is Troy Brock. You can find me on socials at Troy B Baseball. You can find the show on Twitter at Philly Faith Pod. Faith spelled just like Philly with a PH. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, give us that 5-star rating. It helps us out tremendously. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification icon so you can be notified when more episodes just like this one go live. And tell your friends where they can find news, updates, and opinions on your Philadelphia Phillies. And until the next episode, I've been Troy. Y'all been awesome. Peace, love, and rock and roll. Not a rock and roll shirt today, but it's close enough. I'm out. Bye.